It's the Seth Williams Show with Mike CHESELKA. And here's your host, Seth Williams and Mike CHESELKA. You know, that sounds good, man. What a great show that is going to be on Saturday over at the Agora. And here to talk all about it is our good friend from Wish You Were Here. There he is, Mr. Eroc Sosinski. Eroc, how are you, my friend?
Good. How you doing, Chris? Hi, Mike.
Good. Hey, Happy New Year, Eroc. Welcome.
Same to you.
Dude, it's great to see you, man. And man, exciting times for you, man. You start the new year just bringing it with the new set and the new the new show on Saturday, man. So talk all about Wish You Were Here returning to the Agora.
Right. Well, as you know, we used to play HOB. We pretty much outgrew that venue, both with our production and with our audience. And we did our first show at the Agora back in March, and it was awesome. And this is now what we've been doing. We call it our annual holiday show. This is the 17th year where we've done it like on the first Saturday right after the New Year's.
Right.
And we usually do that. It's a little different than like what we're normally doing. For example, after this show, we're starting the Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary tour.
Oh.
And but for this show, for the holiday show, we always do like a mix of classics and obscurities. And we've got some new lights we're going to be debuting, and some new effects and some songs that we haven't played in a while, some classic Floyd. And yeah, we're just really excited because it's the Agora is a great place for our show, and it's a great place for the audience. People can stand, people can sit. You know, there's reserved seats, there's plenty of room to mosh if you want.
Right.
But,
right. Well, Eroc, I mean, it's one thing to say, well, we got some new lights and this and that.
Yeah.
Your show is much bigger than that, my friend. I mean, it's you guys are literally the mini TSO, man. It's such a big show. You know, how long or does it ever feel like it's complete, I guess is the question. Do you ever feel complete, or do you ever always feel like you always got to do more and make it bigger and better?
That's exactly how I feel. I always try and make it bigger and better, because the audience expects that, you know. I mean, they're so used to the grand scale of what, you know, Pink Floyd did, you know, and, you know, to try and bring that down into the level of like a small theater, you know, is our goal. But yeah, I'm always trying to keep it exciting for ourselves as well as for the audience, you know, and they expect it, you know. In a way, we're competing with, you've got the international tribute bands that are out there. They've got the big budgets for, you know, a much bigger show, but you're also paying for it with the ticket price too. And they're great for what they do, and they all are. And, you know, so we just do what we do, and we try and make it good for our audience, you know, play music with soul and passion, and, you know, and some cool lights and effects, and, you know, lasers and inflatables, and a great band. I'm so proud of the band that we've got right now. It's a 10-piece band, and everybody is just outstanding in what they do.
You know, you talk about the fact that there's a real high percentage of people that come to see you over and over and over again, but you can't underestimate. And I still remember the very first time I saw you guys, to sit down and have the show just pound off that stage, that the whole production matched the music and just blew me away. That I go to see that every time I see you guys, and you never disappoint. I'm really looking forward. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad. One of the few reasons why I'm glad it's this time of year. But in addition to the Saturday show, which I hope is standing room only, and there is no room to mosh. Is it true? Because I got a family obligation. I'll be real honest with you. But are you in Akron in April?
Yes.
I will see you there.
We're starting our Dark Side of the Moon tour on the 28th of January in Warren at the Robbins Theater.
Okay.
And then in April, we start April 1st is at the Akron Civic Theater. And that's our show that we do about every 18 months or so. That's a benefit for the Akron Children's Hospital.
Perfect.
And this is our 7th time that we're doing that. So far, we've raised over $140,000 from our shows over the last 7 years for Akron Children's Hospital. And then that will be our Northeast Ohio debut of the Dark Side of the Moon 50th and Beyond tour. And then we go to New York, then we got Columbus, and then in the summertime is the big outdoor events that we usually do as well.
Yes. You don't know, we've just met tonight, but I'm a stand-up comic, and before one of the shows, you'll look around and see people like a little more our age and so on and so forth. And it's just really funny going back to the very first time I saw Pink Floyd, and to think nowadays that people that go to the show now, who'd have thought that our drug of choice would be Coumadin?
Oh, Mike. let me ask you this, Eroc, and it's just from watching the industry a lot, and I see, you mentioned about the international bands having the bigger budgets, and I get that. That being said, it seems like America's starting to get that now, and I'm pointing to a very specific band, but there's a ton like it. There's a band out there called Leonid. And they're Russian guys, and they do this Chicago tribute. They do it as well or better than Chicago does today.
Yeah,
I would put you guys in that same boat. One, because Pink Floyd doesn't do anything anymore, really, right. And two. I mean, I've seen the show, as everybody has seen you guys' show. It's so accurate and appropriate to the vibe of an actual Pink Floyd show.
Yeah.
So are you seeing out there changes to where people are stopping so much being dependent on saying, well, I'm not going because it's not Pink Floyd? Because, back in, even 10, 15 years ago, there was a stigma to being a tribute band.
Sure.
Now it seems like everybody's on board now, as long as they can hear the music and as long as it's performed well.
Right. Fair? Well, as our musical icons age and retire and pass away, yeah, it becomes, people still want to have that communal celebration of the music, and and celebrate it with everybody, and because it's like the soundtrack to their lives in many instances. We've been doing this for 28 years, and when we started, it was still, there was a bit of a stigma with that, but Cleveland's always been, I guess, they say Cleveland's a tribute town, and that all started with Moonlight Drive, Bill Pettijohn doing that back in the late 70s and 80s, and and we started doing the actually with even before that with Harvest, doing our Pink Floyd review starting in 1988. Right. And just when I was, after I'd gotten out of John Carroll doing the metal show, that I went to doing the Pink Floyd as well as playing full time. And so people, it's if you get musicians that are passionate about what they do and putting on a show that people will enjoy, there's certainly, the stigma has pretty much gone off in many ways.
Certainly. Yeah. Now, Eroc, you obviously, for people that don't know, you are a full-time musician. That's your gig, whether it's doing the duo shows or Wish You Were Here, or, for years it was the Resonators and, Michael Stanley as well. The pandemic hits. How do you survive the pandemic, where basically your entire livelihood, as well as a lot of other people's, but your entire livelihood was just said, well, you can sit home? How do you survive that?
Right. Well, vodka helped. But
Yeah.
and Jägermeister. Vodka's my home drink. Jaeger is my gig drink. But it was really, we survived. Yeah, it was a challenge, but you know, I had some government you know, grants that I applied for because I was a full-time musician.
Sure.
You know, and it's all in the books, so it's, you know, legit and above ground. And but also the generosity of a lot of our super fans. You know, we did some Facebook live streams, and we had our friends that watched it and hung out with us, you know, via the interwebs, and it was a beautiful thing, and that really helped out a lot. We've got, I mean, just with, you know, not just Wish You Were Here, but yeah, with Michael Stanley fans and fans of ours and friends of ours that come out and see us, you know, doing our duo shows, and my other tribute bands, the Neil Young tribute Harvest and
Right.
Sugar Magnolia, Grateful Dead tribute. It's so yeah, it was the generosity of a lot of our fans and friends really got us through that. But then, you know, then likewise, once shows started opening up again, now like on the big sense, the theater shows, and that still took a while to get up to full speed, but like the outdoor shows with the duo and stuff, those have been, these last 2 summers have been better than the summers that we had pre-pandemic, which is pretty wild.
Excellent. Well, one of the things that I've been hearing from a lot of musicians is that getting equipment is now hard. Like getting trucks and getting backline and getting, you know, everything is hard. You guys have a huge stage show. I mean, you guys are a long way from throwing it in the back of the car and, you know, making your way. You know, have you had any of those kind of those issues with Wish You Were Here?
Luckily, no, because it helps who you align with. Our front of house sound man is Rich Mazurek, who runs Vertical Sound, and they're like one of the biggest sound companies in Cleveland. So in that respect, it's been good. Yeah. Ordering some things. Yeah. We've had to wait for, you know, gear, like there's, you know, some supply chain issues for certain things, but nothing that's affected us negatively, you know, fortunately. But yeah, that is a big problem though. They've been the sound companies, production companies have been working overtime, and, you know, and having to get people, you know, to work for them is difficult because it's, you know, again, people aren't working as much as they should be. I don't know. Whatever it is, whatever the reasons are.
Don't get that either.
It's gotten very, you know.
It is. It's definitely a nutty world. Well, Eroc, you know, for a lot of people, I think most Cleveland people obviously were aware of your involvement with Michael Stanley, and of course, obviously Michael passed, which, you know, super unfortunate, and, you know, lost a Cleveland icon, really, you know, and for you as somebody that was directly working with Michael, and, you know, I'm sure had, you know, 30-year friendship as well, you know, talk a little bit about not so much his passing, but, you know, kind of what the feel and the vibe of the city has been for you, and for, you know, because I know you guys are, you know, trying to keep the legacy alive as well. So talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Right. Well, it's all been a long, strange trip, and kind of surreal because, you know, I grew up, you know, my sister had Stage Pass, the album, and you know, you know, playing He Can't Love You and Strike Up the Band in a band when I was in 9th and 10th grade. And then, you know, working in radio, I had, you know, worked in radio for 20 years, and along with doing music, and getting to know Michael first at the radio station, working at WNCX with him, was very cool. And then when he asked me to be in the band, I mean, that was even more, you know, kind of surreal. I never had to audition. And as I used to joke with him, I say, you know, yeah, you hired me for the first gig and you never told me I got the job, but you just kept calling me
kept calling.
And 28 years later, you know, I had a great 28-year run with that with Michael.
Wow.
And but so yeah, it was kind of cool because there is like the whole myth and the icon, and so many people that are in awe of him because he's, you know, is as big as, you know, any other act like Springsteen or whoever else, you know, in Cleveland. But yet he was, you know, he was Michael, my friend who, you know, I worked with in radio and then played with and hung out with backstage, and you know, went to his house to record, and you know, and hung out at the radio station eating pretzels in the on-air studio, you know, and talking about how the segues could go from, Black Sabbath into Margaritaville, from Paranoid. We had fun like that. So yeah, it's been kind of, a dual, a dichotomy there of, the friend and the person versus the icon and the image of what everybody, knows. And I mean, it was great to get swept along with that and play at the Rock Hall with Joe Walsh. We played at Clemson Stadium opening for the Eagles. I've got to meet so many people that are close friends of mine now that I met through, that were Michael Stanley fans originally and now come to see me play. And it's been quite an emotional thing. And when that all came to it was weird because it didn't just come to a sudden halt. It was the pandemic. We did these killer shows at, the end of 2019 and beginning of 20. And then like a week later, everything shut down.
Right.
And then, then later in the year, a year later or soon, by the next year, we had the diagnosis that he had cancer. And then it's like, okay, what's going to happen next, but it's like, you still don't want to necessarily face it. And then it happens. And so it's been great to see, I think Cleveland realizes now what they lost. Many people, because hardcore fan base didn't, because they've been, he's always had a hardcore fan base.
Sure.
Right.
But like a lot of the people now that, that say, oh man, I wish I would have, come out to see him, or, oh, I would have went to Blossom, but that kind of thing. But,
right.
Yeah.
What response, and let me word this differently. I was going to say it one way. Let me say it another way. Do you feel either a responsibility or just a passion to continue the celebration of that music, to keep that music alive? Because really, I mean, I think most people do realize that it's you and that band that you guys were together with for the last so many years that kept that music going and kept Michael, quite honestly, kept pushing him forward. And now without him, I know there's been talks and shows here and there, but what do you feel is your place now to keep that music going, if anything?
Well, I think again, it's like kind of what you say. There is a passion. I mean, that music was a part of my life for 28 years, and working with the people that I was working with, and yeah, it's people still, people want to hear it. It's great. I mean, I've been playing Michael's music in my cover band, my duo and such,
sure,
for a long time. But now all of a sudden there's other people that are starting to work that into their sets, and their fan audiences are digging it because, people still want to hear it. People, they want to be taken back, just like the tribute, the whole tribute band thing in general. And in a way, I mean, I feel like, okay, I was one of those that did a part of it, and I'd like to continue doing that wherever I can, if it feels right, if it's, the right thing. Michael's daughters are doing a grand thing with Line Level Music and, getting merch out to people and, remembrances that way. And they've supported, everything that, we've been trying to do here with, the Resonator shows. Again, it's been difficult because, we've had other, as everybody in the band gets older, and I'm, I was the young guy of the band, but like everybody else was,
Well, you're what, 22, 23?
Very good.
Yeah, bingo. We
30.
all are.
Yeah.
It's our New Year's resolution.
I'm 57, but most of the other guys are like 10, 15 years older than me. So it's, it becomes, a thing of like, doing what you can with the people that you love while you can. And that's, how I want to go forward with it, at least, doing it wherever I can, where it feels right.
Right. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, you've said a bunch of different things, and I really hope that is the lesson that comes out of COVID, is for all of us to appreciate and not take for granted and put more effort into the enjoyment and the camaraderie and all of that stuff with colleagues and friends. And you don't have to be even a musician to make that happen. You can do it around, friends and family and stuff. But it's good to see that one. It certainly, one of the pages in the chapter of stuff that people are proud of Cleveland for. And the only other thing I thought of in just sitting here and listening to everything is, I thought of all the local people or people that have not forgotten where they came from and so on and so forth, that after Michael passed, I thought that Joe Walsh's tribute was pretty fitting. And once again, it was like, yeah, he's from Cleveland too. So, or at least the area. And that was enjoyable too.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Eroc. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and other people, Paul Stanley from Kiss,
Sure.
chimed in, and Stephen King, and and in the industry wide, he was respected, and I think that's gonna be part of his legacy as well.
Sure. So will we eventually see White Lines on the Highway, the MSB tribute from Eroc?
Probably not. I don't know if I would. There's already a band out there now doing that, but I'd like to do just things here and there with my own, and and get together and do things a little more organically, just because. But yeah, it's for everybody, and and that's a beautiful thing. However, people want to celebrate his music is fine with us. It's fine with me, at least, and
Sure.
it should be.
Absolutely.
His music was for everybody.
Right. Definitely.
Yep.
Another thing that's for everybody is the duo gigs. And I don't want to not cover the duo gig. I know we're talking Wish You Were Here mainly, but I definitely want to talk about your duo gigs.
Wow.
They are fun. I'll just, as somebody that's seen them a couple of times, and the last time, I think was the last time I saw you was at the Joe Cleon showing, the Joe and Anastasia art showing, and you guys were playing.
Oh yeah, one of the galleries, yeah.
Yeah, and that was such a fun time, and you guys were just being goofy and being silly and having fun, which is kind of what the duo shows are. Yeah. So for people that are not aware, talk about a little bit about the duo shows and where people can find out where those are, because those are, unless I'm mistaken, those are where they can see you the most, right?
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. I mean, I play about 200, and I've been averaging since 2007. I've averaged about 210 gigs a year. Whew. And probably good 75% of that. 75% of that is our duo. That's with myself and Jim Teig, who I've been playing with since 1987 with Harvest, and Wish You Were Here, and we also did the Archery. But yeah, we're entertainers, that's what we do, and with that, and so we're performing music that we like to play, music that our friends like to hear, and originals that we have written over the years. We throw a few of those in. Mostly classic rock stuff, from the main artists, like, the Floyd, Neil Young, Beatles, Stones, NCX kind of playlist, but also, we'll do some Johnny Cash, a little bit of Bob Marley. It's about entertaining, and having a good time and doing shots, drinking vicariously with the band or through the band. People love to buy it. We make sure the bars are stocked with Jaeger because people like having that involvement, buying shots and doing shots with you,
Yeah.
You're on stage doing it and they're doing it. It's become a camaraderie thing, something that, because we're music fans too, we're just, we don't have a roadie set up our duo gig stuff. We truck it ourselves, it's hauling in, and we deal with the drunk woman who's in front of us saying, come on, play something to dance, that's what we say. What we dance to. Play Groove Thing or whatever. That's
right.
New Year's Eve the other night, just dealing with that. But so yeah, that's a classic. Our website with all our gigs for that is classicrockduo.com.
Okay, excellent.
That's where we are. Jiminy Rock. So classicrockduo.com.
Excellent.
And on Facebook.
Cool. Now, Eroc, I'm always curious about this, and I'm going to preface this with my own story. When I was going hot and heavy, when I had my music magazine and was doing the metal show and was doing, music, I got to where I couldn't listen to anything. I just could not, I would find myself definitely not listening to metal. And I spent like a long period of time listening to like 60s and 70s stuff that was away from the work. Mm-hmm. Where are you with that? Can you listen to The Wall, or do you just like, you've played it so many times and maybe the occasional Obscured by Clouds, but for the most part, you're not going to, the bread and butter of a band that you perform with?
Actually with me, no, I'm not that, I can if comfortably comes on the radio and I'm driving in the car, I'll listen to it. I'll try and catch something else. My goal has always been, especially as the leader of the band, is to, when we're learning a new song, it's like I don't have to just know my parts. I've got to know pretty much everybody else what they have to be playing, because that's what the people are expecting to hear.
Sure.
Everybody's expecting to hear something a certain way, and so I'm kind of a stickler for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, yeah, I won't sit and maybe put on the wall, but I have no problem listening to it if I got to, rehearse for it. I'll go deep into the Floyd catalog, like I did recently with the box sets, the immersion box sets, and I listened to a bunch of that. Obscured by Clouds, I could put on over and over because that's a great.
Right.
That's not played to death on radio, but yeah, it's. And it's funny because you mentioned that, like with the metal and everything, because I started off doing heavy metal at John Carroll's radio station at WJC in the 80s, and got into that. But then once I quit doing the show and I hooked up with Jim, I started getting more like into the Grateful Dead and playing, with bands. I wasn't really playing in much hard rock or metal at that point, and got away from it. But always still kept my roots in that, and then came back to a lot of it again, just as I got more diverse in my tastes. I'll tell you, though, it is hard for me to listen to some Michael Stanley stuff right now, to be honest.
Emotionally hard?
Yeah.
Not because you don't want to hear the songs. It's just more.
Right. I can listen to MSB more than it's. I mean, I can listen to it if it's on and I break down. But for me to be. It's almost like I don't know, maybe not, I was say I don't want to deal with it, but it is hard for me to go to one of the albums that I might be on and want to put it on and listen to it, because that probably will be a little tough.
Oh, sure.
But
an interesting thing, man, is, and I don't think most people even realize this. I don't think most people realize how deep the catalog post MSB actually is. Mm-hmm. There's a ton. I didn't realize it. And I thought of myself as a huge fan. And then I like Spotify or whatever. There's like 20 records or something.
Yeah, this whole row here.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
this is all Michael Stanley and MSB, and a lot of doubles up here too. But
yeah.
He got very prolific. Very prolific in his last 25 years.
Yeah, and I mean, they some of those records are fantastic. I mean, they really are.
He really grew as a songwriter and a lyricist. His lyrics were just brilliant, and and he found his niche in terms of like how he liked songs, the kind of music that he liked to write and perform.
Yeah,
and it's for the fans that stayed with it and followed him or discovered him. It's been very rewarding for them. I know.
Sure. I always know, for me personally, and you could tell me that I'm dead wrong on this, and that's fine. But I always thought that the key to his post MSB writing success was that he wasn't leaning anymore on Kevin Raleigh, where I almost felt like in the MSB days, he kind of had to write songs for Kevin or they wrote songs together, where once he got away from that, he could get a little bit deeper. He could write a little more emotional, and he could write a little more true to himself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It wasn't about having to write to have a hit. He wasn't writing songs, and that's because that was their goal. I mean, your goal is as a band, is to become successful and get that. And that was actually one thing he said when, a lot of people would ask him, what, how does it feel like that you didn't become, real big, you didn't make it nationally as big as what, they did somewhat, but not to the extent. And he said, actually, in a way it was a blessing because it allowed him to become the artist that he became, where he could do what he wants to do. He could write music and perform music the way he wanted to do it, as opposed to having to write for someone else.
Right.
And he made a good living for himself. Because he went into, he did TV, then he did radio, and that afforded him a good, lifestyle where he could then make music for himself,
right,
and for his hardcore fans, and that he really enjoyed that. And so that's what he would tell me. And I read in interviews, where he said, in a way it was a blessing because it allowed him to be himself, and progress as a songwriter. over the years.
Right. Definitely.
So that's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good, man. Well, dude, obviously, man, we want to promote the Wish You Were Here show. If I'm not mistaken, it's close to sold out, but it's not quite yet. There's like a few tickets left. Is that accurate?
We still got. We're already. If we were at HOB, it would be sold out by now. But the Agora is bigger, so
sure.
Yeah, it's we got a good. We still have GAs. The reserve seats went pretty quickly because at the Agora, the downstairs holds about 1,200. And in the balcony, you've got 500, or you got 300. I'm sorry, you got 300 reserve seats, and then you've got another 300 seats in the upper balcony that are part of general admission. Right. So you could still get seats in there if you got GA tickets if you get there early enough and before doors at 7. So yeah, but it's starting to fill up, and yeah, it's going at a good pace. So that's
good.
Cool to hear. We're gonna have a nice, great crowd that's excited and ready to jam out to some Floyd.
Excellent, man. Well, one more time, it is Wish You Were Here. They are at the Agora on Saturday, January the 7th. And Eroc, you got anything else that you want to plug, or that you want to plug one more time to let people know?
Well, FloydTribute.com is our website, and that's where through that you can get tickets to our shows. We're looking forward to this year. We've got Harvest, our Neil Young tribute, has been doing really well. We've got shows at Dave & Buster's, Brothers, the Night Stage at Akron Civic. With that, Sugar Magnolia, we still have fun doing that. The Grateful Dead thing every few months or so. And then like I say, ClassicRockDuo.com for the duo gigs, and and support live music out there wherever you can. If it's not us, it's somebody else.
Absolutely.
And a lot of great original music too. Great original music artists out there. Guy Snowden and the Citizens, and Ray Flanagan, and Austin Walking Cane, and just Vindies. So there's a lot of great bands out there right now.
Well, that's what we're known for, isn't it? Having a great live scene, man. It doesn't go away. It just changes names, I think.
Pretty right.
Nice.
On.
Well, one more time, Wish You Were Here out at the Agora on January the 7th. And Eroc, thanks so much for joining us here on the Seth Williams Show.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Have a great year.
All right. Thank you.
And we will be right back after a couple of messages. Here we go. It's the Seth Williams Show.